Chapter 47, Between Takeoff and Forever. Time skip airport. Madison and Johnny walk over to the airport. Johnny looks over to Madison, ready to spend 2 weeks in Bora Bora. Madison looks over to Johnny before nodding. Yeah, going on a honeymoon with my husband, it's something I never thought about having. Johnny holds her hand. I'm glad that I changed your mind. Madison's lips curve into a smile that equal parts of joy and disbelief. You didn't change my mind. You gave me something to look forward to. They step closer together as the boarding call echoes overheard. Johnny leans down, pressing a gentle kiss to her temple, unhurried. Hey, he murmurs, forehead resting against hers. No saving the world. No running, just you, me, and way too much sunshine. She laughs quietly, resting her head against his chest. You're really going to survive 2 weeks without blowing something up. Johnny lifts his hand up in offense. I make no promises. Time skip in the air. The cabin lights are dimmed to a warm, golden glow as the plane levels out, the steady hum of the engines settling into something almost smoothing. First class is quiet, plush leather seats, wide armrests, soft blankets folded neatly at their sides, worlds away from the chaos they left behind on the ground. Madison sits by the window, forehead resting lightly against the cool glass as clouds drift past like slow-moving oceans. Sunlight spills across the cabin, catching in her hair, painting her in gold. Johnny watches her for a moment before nudging her knee gently with his own. You okay there, superstar? She turns to him, smiling softly. I keep waiting for something to go wrong, like someone's going to burst in and say there's an emergency, or Reed needs us, or the world's ending again. Johnny snorts quietly. Now world's on pause, see, even the clouds are chill. He points to the clouds outside as he smiles. A flight attendant approaches with 2 glasses of champagne, offering them with a knowing smile. Johnny takes one, then another, carefully passing Madison hers before raising his own. To be unreachable. Madison clinks her glass against his. To not saving the world for 2 weeks. They sip and Madison exhales, a real one this time, her shoulders finally relaxing as the bubbles tickle her nose. I don't think I've ever flown somewhere without an escape plan. Johnny looks at her with one of his brows arched. You saying you don't trust me to get us out? She laughs. Oh, I trust you. I don't trust the universe. He reaches for her hand again, thumb tracing slow circles over her skin. Universe had its shot. It doesn't get to mess with this. Madison's gaze softens. She looks down at their joined hands, the ring on her finger catching the light. Married on the plane, honeymoon bound. The reality still feels fragile, like glass but beautiful. She leans into him, resting her head on his shoulder. You know, I used to think happiness was something temporary, like borrowed time. Johnny tilts his head, resting his temple against hers. Yeah, me too. They sit like that as the planes cuts through the sky. Johnny decides to put on a movie for both of them to watch. Johnny grins suddenly. So, overwater bungalows, no shoes, no responsibilities. Madison closes her eyes, smiling. You're really committed to this no responsibilities thing. Absolutely, he says. Husband perks. She laughs softly, fingers tightening around his. Chapter 48, Where Happiness Learned to Stay. Time skip, Bora Bora. Day 13. Their morning begins the same way. Sunlight spilling through sheer curtains, the lagoon glowing impossibly blue beneath the bungalow. Madison wakes to the sound of water gently lapping against the wooden stilts, Johnny's arms draped lazily around her waist. Johnny squints at the light. Do we have to be awake already? Madison smiles, brushing her fingers through his hair. You said you wanted to do everything tourists do. He groans. I retract that statement. They don't rush. Breakfast arrives by canoe. Fresh fruit, flaky pastries, coconut pancakes. Madison laughs for the first time, clapping a hand over her mouth in disbelief. This feels illegal. Johnny grins. If this is a crime, arrest me. They spend those first days snorkeling endlessly. Madison still marveling at fish darting around her legs like they're unbothered by humans entirely. Johnny names them. Badly. Madison refuses to acknowledge any fish named Captain Splash or Dave. At night, they sit on the deck with their feet in the water, sharing dessert and watching stars appear one by one. Madison whispers, almost afraid to break the quiet, "I feel safe here." Day 4-7. By the second week, they're braver and far more relaxed. They wander local markets, sampling everything offered. Madison tastes vanilla grown right on the island and stares at it like it's magic. Johnny buys carved wooden trinkets, insisting they need at least 5 souvenirs. "You're going to run out of suitcase space," Madison warns. Johnny shrugs, "Worth it." They take a cooking class one afternoon, laughing as Johnny accidentally adds too much chili to a sauce. Madison coughs. "Johnny." He fans his mouth dramatically. "I regret everything." They try paddleboarding. Johnny immediately fall in. Madison laughs so hard she nearly joins him. "That did not count," he insists, resurfacing. "That was sabotage." They end the day with massages at the spa, Madison nearly drifting off under the steady rhythm of ocean's waves and quiet music. When it's over, she feels lighter, like something she didn't realize she was carrying finally let go. Day 8-11. Some days, they do nothing all. Madison reads on the deck, legs dangling into the water, sunlight warming her skin while the lagoon shifts through impossible shades of blue beneath her feet. Johnny sits nearby with a sketchpad, tongue caught between his teeth in concentration. "This," Johnny declares, holding it up proudly, "is art." Madison squints at the page, an abstract mess of lines that looks vaguely like a palm tree if you're generous. She laughs and leans over to kiss his cheek. "I love your terrible art." He smiles. "See, visionary." At sunset, they wade into the water together, the lagoon warm and glassy. The sky burns orange and pink, reflected perfectly around them. Johnny spins her once in the shallows, both of them laughing until Madison splashes him back, water arcing between them. "You started it," she teased. "I absolutely did," he says, stepping closer. Later, a sudden tropical rainstorm rolls in, fast and dramatic. They stand barefoot on the deck, rain soaking them in seconds, hair plastered to skin, laughter bubbling up uncontrollably. Thunder rumbles somewhere distant, low and indulgent. Madison looks at him through wet lashes, breathless, rain sliding down her face. "This is perfect." Johnny's smile softens. He steps closer, hands warm at her waist despite the rain, forehead resting against hers. "You're perfect." She shakes her head, fingers curling into his damp shirt. "No, this us." The rain fades into background noise. Johnny cups her face, thumbs brushing her cheek, and kisses her. Slow at first, unhurried, like they have nowhere else to be. Madison melts into it, heart racing, hands sliding up his arms as the kiss deepens, heat building between them that has nothing to do with the tropics. Johnny murmurs her name against her lips, voice rough, and she answers by pulling him closer, laughter gone, replaced by something softer and heavier all at once. He lifts her easily, wrapping her legs around him, rain dripping from both of them as he carries her inside, the open doors letting in warm air and the scent of the sea. Madison's arms loop around his neck, her forehead resting against his as Johnny walks them to the bedroom. Johnny lays her down on the bed gently, and they both had their flame on moment. Day 12-14. As the end approaches, the magic doesn't fade. It deepens. They take one last boat ride across the lagoon, Madison resting against Johnny's shoulder as the wind tangles her hair. She watches the horizon quietly, thoughtful. Johnny glances down. "Hey, you okay?" She nods. "I just keep waiting for the other shoe to drop." He tilts her chin gently. "It doesn't have to." That night, they dress up for a candle-lit dinner on the beach. The food is familiar now. Poisson crew, grilled fish, coconut desserts, but it tastes richer, layered with memories. On their final morning, Madison wakes before Johnny. She steps onto the deck alone, watching the sun rise over the water, breathing it in. Johnny joins her moments later, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "You gonna miss it." She leans back into him. "Yeah, but I think I'll carry it with me." He kisses her shoulder. "Good, because when things get loud again, when the world remembers us, I want you to remember this." Madison turns in his arms, eyes bright. "I will." 2 weeks of sunshine, saltwater, laughter, and stillness. Not an escape, a reminder. That love doesn't have to be loud to be powerful, and that sometimes happiness really does last longer than borrowed time. Chapter 49, Bringing the Quiet Home. Time skip back in the air. The cabin is quieter on the way home. The lights are dimmed low, casting everything in soft amber shadows as the plane lifts smoothly above the islands they've just left behind. Outside the window, Bora Bora fades into darkness, just a smear of moonlight on endless water. Madison sits curled slightly toward the window, fingers absently tracing the rim of her champagne glass. She doesn't drink much this time. She's too busy thinking. Johnny watches her over the edge of his own glass. "You've got that look." She exhales, smiling faintly. "I don't want to forget it." Johnny hums. "Yeah, same." She turns to him. "I was scared teas would feel like an escape, like real life would come crashing back the second we boarded." "And," he asks. Madison glances around the cabin, then down at their joined hands. Her ring glints softly under the overhead light. It feels like we're bringing it with us." Johnny's smile is slow, genuine. "Good, because real life's gonna need it." A flight attendant passes quietly, offering blankets. Johnny takes one and puts it over Madison's leg before she can protest, tucking it in like it's instinct. She laughs softly, leaning into him. "You know," she murmurs, resting her head on his shoulder, "2 weeks ago I didn't know how to just be. Now I do," she says, "with you." The engines hum steadily, a constant presence beneath their quiet. Madison watches clouds drift past the window, silvered by moonlight, and for once her mind doesn't race ahead to responsibilities, missions, or expectations. Johnny shifts slightly, settling back. "When we land, people are gonna expect flame on and explosions and hero stuff." She smiles against his shoulder. "Yeah. But tonight," he glances down at her, "tonight you're my wife stealing my blanket." She laughs, eyes closing. "You gave it to me." Details. As the hours pass, Madison drifts in and out of sleep, the kind that's deep and unguarded. At one point she wakes briefly to find Johnny watching her, thumb brushing slow circles against her arm. "What?" she whispers. He smiles. "Nothing, just making sure this is real." She tightens her grip on his hand. "It is." Above the clouds, between destinations, the world feels suspended again, but this time, it isn't fragile. It's steady, and when the plane begins its descent, Madison isn't bracing herself anymore. She's ready to go home, not to chaos, but to a life they chose together. Above the clouds, between destinations, the world feels suspended again, but this time, it isn't fragile. It's steady, and when the plane begins its descent, Madison isn't bracing herself anymore. She's ready to go home, not to chaos, but to a life they chose together.